Good morning from a very frosty UK and good evening from Australia. Really happy to be back with two of my best friends, David and Medyhne from Australia, and for a roundtable chat between friends today. And we've got an interesting subject matter amongst whatever else wants to be discussed about living by design, which I think is fantastic because hopefully this will be really useful to all of us. But before we do that, let's go around the table. How's everyone doing? Medyhne, how are you?
Oh, good. Excellent. Yeah, I must say the last 2 days I have been feeling quite tired, but I think I had a session 2 days ago because, I'm also, continually trying to upgrade my own energies and, in this process that we're all going through, you know, and so that I think that had an impact and then I'm just integrating that as well. But I also think, there's so much intense energy at the moment. The Schumann resonance has been going mad up, really, really high frequencies. And so that's something else that we're all integrating. And so, yeah, I've felt it the last few days for sure. I've just been a little bit sort of sluggish in some ways, but still trying to do all the things that I want to do, but much slower pace, I would say. But in terms of the energies, I feel that coming up to Christmas too, there's so much happening and people are getting busier and busier too coming up to Christmas. And so we're also feeling all those sort of hectic energies around us. And so that's having an impact. And we're also nearing the intensity of Christmas, which is all the family get-togethers and everything like that. And I think emotionally that's very powerful in many ways for people. So we're also coming up to that, and especially with everything that's happening on the planet, it's even much more magnified. So interesting times to be
It is very interesting. Yeah. Look at my lovely dogs, by the way, asleep on the
oh,
sofa.
that's so sweet.
They're so sweet. And I've got my lovely fire going here because it's very cold, a fire in the background. David, how are you doing and how are things where you are?
Yeah, things are good. Thank you, Catherine. It's been about 2 months since our last chat, I think, and a lot's happened. I've been taking these amino acid protein tablets. So they're not, they're not based on this, but it's supposed to be very fast absorption and high percentage. I lost a bunch of weight when I went vegan and about 5 kilos or something, and I've managed to put on 4 kilos in about 5.5 months. So I'm pretty happy with those results.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things I'm doing right now, and we can talk more about this later. Is just getting my health in order, and that's one of the things. But apart from that, yeah, everything's kind of just ticking along. I had a really good month last month with work, and this month I'm kind of just having a bit of a break from things. I've been working pretty hard for the last 7 years, trying to get my life in order, and things like that. But yeah, it would be a good time to have a bit of a rest.
Yeah, I sort of feel a bit like Medyhne in terms of, I must say I've been quite tired the last couple of days, but over here we're having a really cold spell by UK standards. Things were not set up for it. And at this time of year is really, really busy for me with all the animals because I've got the horses, the dogs, the rabbits, the guinea pigs, the cats, and the wildlife that I help look after. And when you've got 3 inches of ice on all the water and you're having to carry buckets of water, miles and everything, physically
Mm.
it's a lot. And I am not a person that was designed to live in a cold climate. Honestly, I'm really not. I don't know if my DNA doesn't back that up, but I wasn't. So I always find the winter. But what I loved and what it's brought back to me is doing things that our bodies are designed to do. And I've had quite a lot of chats on my channel with holistic vets, with people from the animal perspective and the human side of things about how important exercise is, but also exercise for your species appropriate exercise. And even though it's physically been quite tiring, it's so satisfying when you get that physical. Like my husband spent a lot of yesterday chopping logs and things for the fires and things, and actually there's a real sense of satisfaction. I don't know, personally I get so much more sense of satisfaction in terms of foraging, collecting logs, water, looking after the animals, looking after the garden than I do say from going to a gym, because it feels right back to that sort of evolution,
Organic.
whatever you think of what we are meant to do as humans. You know, I'm watching all the animals at this time of year desperately foraging for their food, for their shelter and everything, and it's quite nice getting back to that real raw, almost survival stuff. I think it brings out different emotions and very much takes you away. So I haven't been distracted by anything that's been going on in the bigger picture when you're really concentrating on that things. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm at the other end of this spectrum, Catherine, which is very funny
Yeah.
because it's super hot here, and I'm not used to it because I moved north, to this island, really, really hot, and so adjusting to hot weather, it actually does make you quite sort of seeps your energy a bit because you're just so hot. So I'm adjusting to that because I having the opposite effect that it's hard to do things when you get really, really hot and you're sweating and you're it's like oh, so I'm adjusting to that. It's tricky actually, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, someone's got a lot of clanking going on in the background. I'm just warning you. I don't know who
I
that
think
is.
it's my seat. I think it's my seat.
Oh, that's all right then. So if you suddenly
Yeah.
collapse and disappear, we know why. So today,
He hasn't had too many baked beans.
yeah,
No baked beans today.
that's all right. It's the gremlins under the sea. I mean, David, you came up the subject for today, living by design, and I think both Medyhne and I absolutely loved it because for me, it's so on point about where we're at individually and collectively. Talk us through why you came up, why you think this is so relevant for people, and why we should all be looking at this.
I must have seen a post somewhere where the question was, are you living by default or living by design? And it got me thinking about my journey and the things that I've had to do. And obviously it's very pertinent to what's been happening in the world because living by default has gotten us where we are to a degree. Well, not to a degree. It just has. We haven't really designed our life collectively in a way, and we've had some infiltration and some guidance towards where we are, of course. But I think if more people were deliberate about how they wanted to design their life, then things could have been very different. Unfortunately, we've all been, a very large percentage of us, and I was guilty of this for a long time too. We're in the victim mentality where we just think that life happens to us and we're powerless to really change anything, which is not true. And so that's why I thought it would be good to talk about that, because this can be applied to any area of life.
Mm. I believe that there's this quote that I just read the other day saying you are your habits, and I think that what people are feeling at the moment with the sort of intensity of everything that's happening, people in a sense are just sort of energetically giving up on their own sort of. A lot of people are giving up on their own evolution and just sort of allowing to go in the flow because it's all feeling a bit too much for them. But then at the mercy of the elements and what's happening around them. And so it's really important to have that sort of sense of habits and discipline throughout the challenging times as well as the easier times. And I think it can become more challenging when the world, there's so much going on at the moment that we're dealing with, and people can get distracted with that, and then they can lose sight of where they are and what they need to focus on.
Yeah, I think both of you really, really good points. I mean, anyone who's watching sort of any of us three, probably like we all have personally, over the last, whether it's 3 years, whether it's 10 years, 20, whatever your journey is like for you, there's so much discovery about what you don't want on a personal level and also on a society or global level. But then that can sometimes, I think, not leave too much time to focus on what you do really want. And there's so many examples, so many great things you can watch, read, listen to about time and time again about how you can create your own reality by your thoughts being followed up by your actions. I like to call it like inspired actions, purposeful actions, you towards what you want to do. And I've just been lucky enough to be working with a really lovely group. We had a small little health coaching group with the most lovely, lovely, lovely ladies from all across the globe. And it was part of the stuff we did with the ASEA. But first and foremost, also with Bryce on her 30-day shadow work challenge, first and foremost, when you're connecting with people, you realize how many unique gifts every single person has got. And it sounds such a cliche, but every time you sort of work with people sort of on a more one-on-one or small group level, I'm constantly blown away by the individual gifts that everyone's got, and how there's no accident about why certain groups get together, because the lovely diversity of the groups means that, you know, you all fit together like a perfect jigsaw puzzle. And I think when you're looking at living by design rather than default, we've spoken about this a lot, about we're so programmed about what society wants us to think is normal, and it's just not. And you know, a classic example, I've had to go into London a few times recently because my daughter's got to have an operation this week, and
How's she going, by the way? How's she
oh,
going?
she's so amazing. She's so positive about, she's done so much for someone so young. She's done so much inner work about, you know, seeing, okay, I might not see what the gift in this is now, but I know there will one. I know there's a reason for everything that happened. So she's just amazing. But when I go up to London, I just like, it constantly amazes me. It's like, you know, humans are not meant to live like this, in my opinion. Now, some people love it. And if you feel like you're on purpose living that life, that is absolutely wonderful. But, you know, you just think, wow, I would quote David Icke, you know, if you know the end point of where they're trying to get you to, the agenda becomes very, very obvious when you see these things. And I just think it's amazing that they've convinced people that to live in cities where there's most of them, there's no community spirit. I mean, I still live in a very sort of old-fashioned rural area where you're actually very isolated. You know, we've got no mains gas, you know, we're not on most of the services and things. It's quite an old-fashioned way of living, but the community is just fantastic, because actually you've got to all pull together and help each other out, and everyone knows each other because you there's not that many of you there. And when I compare that to what it's like for my friends that are living in cities and things, is there's just no comparison. So I think sometimes I can see why the living by design is so challenging for people, because they've got to overcome a lot of obstacles. But actually, once you start those first steps, it can really start to flow. I mean, David, what are some of the things, because you've made huge strides in this, I would say, just in the time I've known you, about designing your life in all sorts of areas. What's some of the things, the key points you would bring out to people if they're looking at really saying, right, now's my time to change?
I think you just have to start with one area. What's the most important thing to you in the moment that is really going to get the ball rolling? And as you build up momentum in that area, then you're going to naturally want to start improving other areas of your life. So for me, it was my dating life when I was living in London. And after that, it became my career a few years later. And since then, you know, more recently, it's been my health and other things. And I've always gone to the gym and stuff, but that's a different thing altogether. It's like, yeah, I think someone can look healthy on the outside and have muscles and things, but not actually be very healthy on the inside, you know. So and that could be a function of other things that they consume, alcohol and things like that. But because our food's been tampered with so much, we're missing a lot of those things. So I've been actively replacing you know, different minerals and vitamins. And I mean, I haven't really noticed a huge difference, but I know it's good for me, you know. So yeah.
You look very healthy.
Yeah,
Thanks.
You
Yeah.
do look very healthy.
I should hope so. I'm doing enough.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Medyhne? I mean, when people are looking at sort of living by design, where do you start when you're doing this for yourself?
Well, I've always got room to improve in this area. I will admit, it's always a work in progress. But I mean, for example, I've got the most beautiful space drum just sitting over there, and I say to myself, I'm going to, you know, spend time, you know, just focusing on playing that, and I often don't, you know, sort of fit it into my daily life, and I should, because it's a beautiful thing to do. So that's one of the things on my agenda that I want to incorporate. But I guess the thing is, I look at what are the essential things, like Dave said, what are the priorities? And I like to try and be balanced in all the areas, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. So, for example, every day I do a big walk with my dog and my partner, and I have some partner time, have some dog time, and have some walking time, all in one. And then I try and incorporate eating well in the day. That's really important. Drinking lots of water, those sort of basic fundamental things. And then I've got my work that I'm incorporating, and I try to also incorporate beautiful creative things in my day that inspire me and just light my soul, nurture my soul. And I'm excited to share with you one of the things that I've been working on at the end of the chat today, which is a video that I had done of something that I've created. So, I love all that sort of thing, because that's really important to not only feed your physical body, but feed your soul. And, things feel like, I feel like I'd like to catch up chatting with a lovely friend. And I think, well, I'll make sure that I fit that in the day, because it feels like that's something that would be really good and I can fit it in. So it does depend on the day, but I try and keep that balance between all the different elements as much as I can, and also try and be in the flow. So, there's a few things going on.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? I mean, one of the things we were using, sometimes some of the simple tools can be the best. And I don't know if you guys have ever used the Wheel of Life, but it's a really simple tool, and anyone can look this up. Really simple tool to look at all areas of your life. I mean, all areas, it classifies it into segments, and there's lots of different variations out there, some really complicated, some really simple. But most people, I'm finding at the moment, they might sort of think, for example, improving their health is a high priority. But when you do the Wheel of Life, they realize that their social life or something is really, really low. And I think a lot of the reasons why, in my experience, because I work a lot with people on this on an individual level, whether it's for themselves or for their animals, why you don't stick to goals is because actually sometimes the goals that you think are the most important and you want to start on aren't your real priority. So interestingly, a lot of people I've been working with recently, and I don't think this is a surprise given what's been going on over the last few years, they have got health challenges, but actually what came up most prominently on the Wheel of Life was the lack of social connection.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people have found friendships that they thought might be, good friendships, actually these last few years, what it has done for good and bad is it's shown the cracks in those, and whether you're really aligned on a spiritual and emotional, whether you've really got each other's backs. So actually what we found is all of us, and that was applicable for myself as well, because gone from, I used to be so sociable, but now at the moment, most of the people I feel really connected with are the other side of the world, like you guys. People in America and things. And that's, I realized I was really, really missing that. So we've all been working on the last month about building those social connections again more locally, and it's made a huge difference to me. And also I will say it's also shown how easy it is, because we are social animals, we are designed to be living in communities, how when you then compromise some of your core values, because if you haven't got something that really is lifting you up, when I was thinking about what we were going to talk today, and we a lot of it, people talk about goal setting, but how many people really have got your back? How many people in your life, if you've got something that you say you want to share, achieve, how many people are really like, there, come on, yeah, fantastic, love it, what can I do to help? Or how many people are actually either jealous or saying that, telling you all the reasons why you can't achieve it?
Yes.
And it's an interesting journey, isn't it, to go on? And I've seen a lot of people have gone on that, which then you can see why it makes, when they look at designing their life and setting their goals, they have these setbacks.
Catherine Woodward Thomas, a relationship expert from America, she says that 80% of our happiness is our social relationships
Yeah.
and interaction. And so what I see happening in the world at the moment is, with everything that's been going on, we're aligning with our spiritual tribes and our people that have the same energetic consciousness that we do. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, but some of that is that they're online, and they're not all here in the physical, like where we're living, in our location. But I think that's partly because we're aligning with soul family, and they're all over the place.
Have you found that?
What did that for you, Catherine? What did that mean? Did that mean reconnecting with old friends, or did that mean making new friends that were more aligned with your current journey?
It's been a little bit of both. I think for me, what just my own personal experience has been really sort of looking through my old friends and being really honest about who do I want to reconnect from. Is it reconnecting from a feeling of lack of that in-person social connection, or is it reconnecting because I really feel we both would benefit from that? So, and when I've asked those tough questions, actually in the majority of the cases, it's been making new friends and realizing that there are some that I've reconnected with, I would say, a much more open heart, because I think a lot of this last few years has shown on all sides of the fence how much judgment there is. But equally, something I've been working on a lot over the last year is boundaries, because I've also realized personally, because I am such an empath, I have a real habit of letting people overstep those boundaries and project a lot of that. So just because you understand why someone's behaving a certain way doesn't mean you have to accept it. And that's been a huge lesson for me, and one that will always be ongoing. But actually what it has meant, it's such a cliche. What I find so amusing and ironic, it's so funny, I'm just laughing at it on a daily basis, is these simple things. They're so true. It's also simple when you bring it back down to first principles. It's so simple. And when you have clear boundaries and you live by them, a lot of these problems disappear. When you are really comfortable who you are and unapologetic in that, but also non-judgmental of yourself and non-judgmental of others, a lot of these problems disappear. So I've been sort of doing a lot of the inner work, but experimenting with, it's okay to make that space to allow the new come in. And time again, when you make that space, the right people come into your life.
I think part of that too is being happy with being by yourself,
Yeah.
being happy in your own company. And so
Yeah,
when
for
you're relying on people to bring you happiness and bring you something that's missing within yourself, you often have relationships that can have issues, or because there's that attachment and you've got expectation and all that sort of thing. So I think at the core level, just being happy with being in your own company, and then anything in addition to that is going to be a bonus, but you're not lacking. You're not being in the relationships because you're lacking.
Yeah, I had my auntie I don't know when it was, ages ago. She asked me if I had a girlfriend. I didn't at the time, and she goes, "So you ever get lonely? Do you ever feel lonely?" And I was like, "Well, loneliness is more of a state of mind, I believe, anyway." And she was somebody who had a boyfriend, and yet she was lonely. So it really didn't, there was a incongruence with what she was saying, and I think it just goes off of what you said, Medyhne. It's like you have to be comfortable with yourself first before you can really go and find a partner, because that's just going to come back at you, and it really fits in with living by design, doesn't it? Because if you're not, you're just defaulting on getting a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You know what I mean? And just saying that's going to be the thing that's going to make me happy, but it isn't.
The total irony is you can be more lonely with someone that you're not really truly connected with than you can be by being by yourself.
And I think that goes in all areas, don't you think? It's also in your work life. It's with acquaintances, it can be where you're living and everything. This is why I'm having such fun. So funny enough, before you came up with the subject for today, David, it's been a real theme because I've been working with people on this for the last month. But my daughter had said to me, let's redo our vision boards today. And I've been so excited this weekend. You know, I know it's such a simple tool, doing a vision board, but if you are really passionate about wanting to live by design, it's so powerful. And you know, so I'm really excited now. We're setting aside, you know, some time this week each day to really work on our vision boards. And I'm really excited to do it, because if you're a lot of the time, you know, it's been so hard going through this journey for people, sort of seeing what's going on and what they don't want to, and this feeling of being, you know, what difference can I make on an individual level? But when you're on purpose, and when you are creating your own life, and just constantly moving forward with those steps, you're such a pleasure to be around. You really do make a difference to every single thing that you interact with, of whatever species. And those dreams, so long as they're yours, it doesn't matter what they are. You know, this is the thing, is every single person is going to have their own dreams, their own things that they can contribute. And that's just beautiful. When people do start working on that, then you resonate at a completely different level, and people want to spend time with you. Animals want to spend time with you.
Oh, it
Yeah, your
really
energy
might
signature.
inspire.
It's your energy
Yeah.
signature.
Yeah. I'm very excited, actually, because one of my lifetime goals is coming to fruition. Yay! And I've had this vision all my life of something I've wanted to know, and I thought, oh, that's too grand. You know, I'm not sure how that's going to manifest. Oh my gosh, it's all coming together. I can't believe it. It's so good. And what I'm working on is a documentary movie with a filmmaker about the golden age, and basically the age that we're going into, where we're all creating the ideal reality that we want to exist in, and what it looks for different people, what it's like for children as well, and all the different aspects of that. And that's something that I think is really lacking in the world, which is things that we can watch that really inspire and raise our frequency and raise our consciousness, as opposed to, you know, the fear-based, you know, entertainment that's out there at the moment. So, and I have this amazing fellow called Martin, who I'm working with, who's done some amazing things, and all, you know, the wonderful people like yourselves. You know, I love you to share, you know, what you think's important, and what you'd like to see if there was a project like that, you know, that you think would contribute to the collective. And because I think the more people that are able to share what their vision is, you know, we want to include that in what we're doing. And I've already had quite a few people contact me and tell me what they think is important, which is fantastic. So that's, to me, my 2023, and very, very exciting, as well as, you know, my clients and my Patreon community and all those other things I'm doing, which I really love. But this is in addition, and it's just so exciting when you do something that you've always had in your mind that you've wanted to do, and it actually then translates into physical reality. It's very, very exciting. So yay.
How that's just absolutely lovely, and I love seeing it. And this is what thing, you know, when you hold that vision, it will happen. You know, sometimes we don't know the exact time scale, but it will.
Exactly. And I thought, oh, how is this going to, you know, manifest? And it's just came in. I contacted the filmmaker right at the exact right moment. You wouldn't believe, he'd been away for 3 days, and I called him and I said, look, I've got this vision. What are your thoughts? And he said, I can't believe I just walked in the door. I'm thinking about creating something to do with you know, a utopian vision, you know. And then I ring him and say this right at the moment he's walked in the door. So I'm thinking, thank you, divine. Thank you. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you know, this incredible synchronistic alignment that happened. And you know, that then, you know, in the flow, and then, you know, I rainbows are my sign. And then the next day, I haven't seen a big rainbow here since I moved here, not one. And I got up the next morning, and there's this magnificent rainbow right over the water across my balcony as I open the curtains. And that's my sign. It's like, yes, Medyhne, got big green, go light. So it's all, you know, synchronistic, very exciting.
Love
That's cool.
Absolutely lovely. David, how important do you think having the right people around you are in terms of, you know, when you're looking at living by design or achieving any goal, having those people that, whatever it might be, people that good friends that absolutely want you to succeed, or
Yeah.
mentors, etc.
It's one of the most important things, if not the most important, outside of your own desire to achieve that thing, because we've all heard the term, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most, and it is very true. And that's the reason why I moved over to Melbourne when I did, because all my friends were still just getting drunk and stuff, and a lot of them were married and some of them had kids at that point, but the ones that weren't, I just couldn't be doing that anymore. I had to live my 30s the opposite of I lived my 20s, you know, if I wanted to achieve anything, because I got to the point in my life and I was like, what have I really done? You know, I've done everything they wanted me to. I went to university, I got a degree, and then I got a professional job, and then I, you know, did more study again to further that, and it's really gotten me like I'm so unhappy, you know. So yeah, it's the most important thing. You need to surround yourself with people, and it doesn't have to be physical, although that would be the best. Having a group of 5 people that don't have to be wanting to achieve the exact same goal as you, but if you're going to be surrounding yourself with anyone, they should at least have big dreams for their own lives, you know, and be wanting to achieve those in whatever way that is, whatever that means to them. But obviously the second best thing is having a group of online people that you can contact with and speak on the phone or whatever, that you can bounce ideas off of. And it goes far beyond just having those people that will motivate you. It goes to the point of, you don't really want to be listening to the stupid bullshit conversations most people are having day to day about, you know, how you can't do what you want to do, or people complaining about their jobs. Like, you just don't want to be around that kind of stuff anyway. So you need to have people that are not in victim mode and want something better for themselves.
That's true. There's a real feeling of wasting your time. I find when I did it, I was chatting to some people here on the island the other day, and they were saying, oh, you know, that they'd had this, and I said, oh, you know, I don't think it's, you know, I was trying to sort of convey diplomatically that I didn't think it was very good for their health, and somebody else said, yeah, it's a depopulation gene. They go, oh yes, I know, but I don't want to live long anyway. And I'm thinking, I could be home every I was like, oh, I just felt overwhelming sense of, oh my
What'd you take it for then?
Yeah.
Like, what'd you take it for? Wasn't that the whole point of it? So you don't get sick and die? Like,
well, they sort of seemed like they didn't really value their lives too much, because they thought, oh well, you know, you've got to die sometime. So it's like,
that's
and
that's
I get
indicative of, yeah.
a lot of people respond like that. It's very, I can't quite understand. But anyway.
I think it's just so fascinating, isn't it? I think, again, the more you do the inner work yourself, and it comes back to these same things, every discussion we have, doesn't it? Almost comes back to the same core principles. The more you really realize, and it's not selfish at all, because the fact is, matter, if you're not aligning to them, I can guarantee they won't really be aligning to you, and you won't be helping them out as well. So honesty is so lovely. You know, this is what I love. I had a lovely chat with a holistic vet from, he's sort of was born in Czech and then lived a lot in Canada, Dr. Peter Tobias. It's really worth people watching that conversation, because I think he expresses himself so beautifully. And it's like, you know, you've got to be, when you have the honest conversations, you know, animals are so honest in their communication. They're so honest, there's no alternative. And I think us humans could learn so much for that, because you can be really honest from a heartfelt place. You know, honesty, people seem to equate with cruelty or being mean or hurting people. And to me, it's exactly the opposite. Because if you're being honest from a heartfelt place, you're looking at mutual benefits to each other, and you know, it's very, very obvious. If vibrationally you're not aligned, then neither of you are benefiting from that relationship, neither. It is hard sometimes, because if you haven't, you know, as you were saying, you've got to be happy with being on your own, and then the right people will come in. But also, it's quite interesting, I think, historically with humans, not that we really know what's gone on, because we know we've been lied to about all of our history, but you know, when you look at how most people living in harmony with nature at the moment, they do have quite stable communities, and quite often they're isolated, so there's not necessarily a lot of moving in or out. So do you think now that the fact that we live so differently as a human species and that so many relationships are transitory, they don't last as long necessarily, do you think that's hard for people to cope with?
I think our lives have so accelerated. It's like we have many, many lifetimes in one lifetime. And I
Yeah.
think part of the process of evolution that, you know, people come into your life for short periods and then they go out, and that's all intentional because, you know, we're so accelerated in our growth and we're changing so much that, you know, that they might come in and trigger something within us that shifts something, and then that they're not, in some ways they're not meant to be there any longer, and then the other people that are there permanently, you know, that's all meant to be. So I just think it's part of the grand design of how we're living at the moment with a great accelerated rate of growth.
Mm.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch a movie where the characters don't change ever. You know?
That's such a good point.
There's no, I mean, you're the star of your movie. If you want the same characters to be in there for the entire time, then that's fine. But nothing's ever going to change. You know, I love the quote that you haven't grown if you haven't outgrown your friends, and it's a tough one. That was one of the toughest things I had to deal with, or one of the things I was dreading the most was losing touch with people. But I made sure that I didn't sever anything on purpose and just let it happen organically. And then when I became more aware of what was going on, it's just like you said, Catherine, it's a vibrational mismatch. The reason why you don't call them and they don't call you is because you're not vibrating on the same frequency anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's life is supposed to evolve. You're supposed to evolve. And if you just stay stagnant, then you're going to find you have a very, very tough and miserable existence.
And it's so different when you're young, you know, like you might have like 100 friends, but they're not really substantial or good quality friends. But as you get older, the relationships become more substantial and they get deeper, and then the friendships get less and less and less in quantity. So it's interesting how that happens. And the other thing that I noticed too, when you're young, you want to gravitate to the cities and that sort of lifestyle that you were talking about, Catherine. And then as you get older, you want to leave the cities and you want to go and live in the country areas and, you know, become you know, living on the land and connecting to nature and things. So part of that is that you know, human growth process that we go through as we become more wise and experienced, I think.
And embracing those stages of the life you're at, and also respecting those when other people are at different stages, you know. So you know, a classic example is some people settle down and have kids really young, and therefore, you know, they get to 40 and their children are grown up and they can go, well, hey, and now's my time for freedom. And other people, like, you know, I didn't have children till I was in my 30s, and so I'd done all that sort of partying and traveling around the world and everything. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just allowing people to be themselves and doing what they need to, and making sure, I think, you're not clinging on too much to things that are no longer serving you or the other person, without also just being too much of a disposable society. You know, there is also sometimes some relationships are really worth fighting for, and by fighting might be the wrong word, in terms of really worth exploring. Is this really not a vibrational match, or for example, is there a breakdown in communication, or is someone going through real stress or grief and actually lashing out when really they need your support even more?
I think one of the biggest things, and it's kind of ties up everything we've all of us have said, is people have a very high level of apathy about almost everything in their life. And like, I have conversations with people about, you know, like the digital currency, and they're like, oh, well, that's fine. I don't do that, or I don't do this, or whatever. I'm like, don't you understand? Like, people just don't get it, and they just think if I'm just apathetic, you know, everything will work. Everything's going to work out. You know what I mean? But it never. I mean, on some level, it kind of does, but it works out in a way that you probably don't want it to. You know?
Yeah. I know what you're saying, and I think sometimes what the apathy is at the moment is that in some ways there's so much happening and people can't integrate it all and they don't know what to believe. And also some of the negative fear porn and everything that's out there, people have lost a bit of the spirit to go on, that spirit.
Exactly. Like you said, with those people who've got the thing.
That will to live. So, I think, the three of us, for example, are here to one of our purposes is to inspire others to reclaim, the joy of life and the spirit of life, even in the midst of everything that's happening. And I think that's something I'm seeing out there at a collective level that is quite prevalent at the minute. And I hope that shifts, because you want people to be inspired by their lives. And it's such a precious gift to be alive. There are so many souls, even ascended masters, that want to be on the planet at this time and experience this transition. So we're incredibly blessed to be here. And from the other perspective, when we're on the other side and we look across at this lifetime, we're going to be able to see with full clarity, I believe, how precious this lifetime actually is. But when you're here, there's that, as you both said, the apathy and the sense of, oh, I just want this life to finish, or I just want to get through this stage and get to the next stage. But it's the journey. It's not the destination.
Absolutely. We all know how we feel when we've watched a really good series or film or read a really good book, and that, like, oh, I don't want it to end. And whether it's a relationship or whatever, or your actual life, I work so much with animals, and I see day in, day out the damage that's done by taking choices away from any living being. So once you've taken those choices away and restrict them, however much you might think you're spoiling your dog or your cat or your horse or your aloe vera plant, if you're not listening to their feedback and giving them some input to that, it's always a sort of hiding to nothing for the being that's had the choices taken away. And I think, realizing we are so lucky as humans with how many choices we have got. Sometimes it can feel, when something disastrous has happened in your life, that you haven't got those choices. And that's where, like you were saying, David, having those people that you can call on that can point some of the positives out and help you reframe things and ask different questions. Because I would really implore everyone watching this, and please do let us know what you think below, because share below, because you'll inspire someone else, and that could be the difference to trigger something to really go for it. Is living by design. Just think this week, just spend some time whenever it is you can, however long or little time you can put aside, to come up with a couple of things that you really, really want. And then think, who can help me along my life if you need help, or if not, what actions can I take each day to do this? Because that can be so inspiring for yourself, and just reclaim energy inside yourself and motivation and feelings that you didn't even know were there anymore. It's so valuable, because we can't expect these bigger global pictures to be sorted out if we're not all doing that at an individual level. That's my opinion anyway.
Oh, the good news is we're actually being activated to do that at the minute. I feel like there's energies that are pushing us toward our, soul purpose, and it's being shown to more and more people right at the minute. And I think that there's a reason for that, because as we are going through the intensity of what could, it looks like 2023 is going to be quite intense. But if you're doing the thing that you love and that inspires you and raises your frequency, it's going to just make it so much easier for everyone, because we're all tapping into the energy and it's going to benefit everyone. So there's a reason why we're being really encouraged right now to activate our divine soul missions, for sure.
I love it. What about you, David? Any final words on that?
Yeah, I just think that if people had, I said this at the start, but if people had a life that they designed themselves, they would be so much more willing to fight for it, wouldn't they? Like the problem is the average person has had a life given to them by the powers that be, and they don't like it, and so they would rather almost just give up, which is what they did. isn't it? So yeah, it's unfortunate, but hopefully we are moving to a much more conscious, and I think we will move to a much more conscious existence where people do. It will be tough, and it's always going to be tough. You know, it hasn't been very easy for any of us to create a life that we like. You know, it's been there's a lot of work, a lot of mindset problems to overcome. In my case, especially, but you get through it, and if you persevere and never give up, and it does get easier depending on what challenges you throw at yourself. But it does get easier. Just the first year or so, depending on what your background is, could be a bit of a challenge, maybe even longer. Who knows?
And the gift of that too is that, you know, when you go through something that's, you know, really challenging, often it's so that you can help someone else on that same path that coming after you, and that's not to be underestimated. That's a really important part, you know, that helping others on the tracks that you've trod. I think that's a really important part of why we're here as well.
It's like any rite of passage that every civilization has had, every tribe has had, and unfortunately we're missing out now in modern day worlds, as there aren't any clear rites of passage. And you can get that wisdom, that knowledge, that advice passed on to you, and then you have to take self-responsibility and do the work yourself, or do the journey yourself. No one else can do that for you. And it might seem like a big mountain to climb initially because we have been so programmed against it, but all you've got to do is take that first step, decide where you're going. It's like putting into your sat nav your location of where you're going. You put it in there, then you turn the ignition on and you start going. If people look at it like that and break it down into manageable steps, but at least then you're stepping forward each day. I think you just summed it up perfectly, David, that most people are living a life that they don't want, that someone else has designed for them. The beauty of being a grown-up, not so easy. I don't think there's going to be any children watching this. The beauty of once you're an adult is most of the time there's always something you can change in that, and then you can start creating your own life now. I think we'd love to hear below what people are doing, and you know, what advice they've got for others and what's working for them, because every sort of little nugget that you share will trigger something in someone else that's meant to see that. Brilliant. I love our discussions. I really love them. I always get so much out of them. It's like, you know, for me, these round tables are so good because it's like, you know, surround yourself with people that do want each other to succeed. So Medyhne, you're going to finish off by sharing a video with us, aren't you? Tell us what you're going to share.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been wonderful catching up with you both. Well, it's a poem that I was guided to write because it's really, I guess, based on inspiring others and people seeing the light within themselves. And I wrote it really, really quickly. It came through really, really quickly, and then I had it put to like a little video, and yeah, I'm really sort of happy with it. So I hope people enjoy it, and I hope it makes people feel their own light within themselves.
Lovely. Do you want to play that, and then we'll say our final surprise at the end?
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, lovely. And where can you find that? Will that be on your channel and on your website?
Yes, it's actually a gift for people. So if people would like to go to my channel, Arise Humanity, and to where I've shared the video there's underneath in the description, you can download it if you like it. You're welcome to keep the video, and it's a gift, a Christmas gift for people. So yeah, thank you for letting me share it.
That's really lovely. And David, obviously we've got your links which will be below for your music and also your health channel. Anything new that you're working on at the moment?
No, nothing. Actually, I put the health channel on pause at the moment, so no new videos coming out now. I wanted to simplify my life, like really simplify it. So I'm just not doing anything. I'm kind of just doing music and working at the moment, and when you do that, when I decided to just focus on work, and not do a podcast and a health channel and then other things too. You put the intent out there, and my income just went through the roof. So it's very powerful to have an intention for something, and it allowed me to actually, similar to you, Medyhne, I actually hit an income goal that I'd had for myself for the last God knows how long, 3 or 4 years. So
that's absolutely fantastic. Look, it can be done. It can absolutely be done. Thank you so much, you two, for joining us. Thank you so much to anyone that's taken the time to listen to this conversation. We appreciate you so much, and we would love to see in your comments below, what tips and techniques you've got to work to help people and what you've been doing for yourself to create your life by design. And we'll be back after Christmas, I'm sure.
Yeah, look forward to chatting to you both in 2023.
Yeah. Lots of love, everyone. Bye.
Bye.